let's take that 36 billion at HMRC said in an ideal world, if we get everybody paid everything they should, we get 36 billion more. Would you now tell our listeners what is by far the biggest chunk of that 36 billion that's not paid?
I think it's mainly VAT, if I remember rightly.
Well,
Am I right?
well, it's partly that, but what it is, it ain't billionaires sitting on the beach that I wish I was on. It's small businesses. Small businesses account for 20 billion. So you need to go to war with, so you're not going for the oligarchs with that, Margaret Hodge. You're going for small businesses. Good luck with that. 2 weeks to go in the campaign. Let's speak to Labour's Margaret Hodge and Conservative Home's Tim Montgomerie. So, Margaret Hodge, it turns out, according to your leader, that working people are not people who work, but people who can't afford to save. Is that a workable definition?
I think there's been a lot of fluff around this, Andrew. I really do. This is just a desperate attempt to try and catch out some sort of hidden agenda of which
he made the fluff.
Tax.
He made the fluff.
It just is completely, we've made an absolute commitment that we're not going to raise the three key taxes that affect working people who are in work, and we're going to fund the first small steps of what we're going to do in government, which gives a sense of direction out of that. And to expect to try and sort of frighten people into, there's going to be a tax rise here, there's going to be a tax rise there. There isn't. Those are the absolute commitments. And what nobody, Tim must agree with this. Nobody would commit themselves on tax rates throughout a parliament.
Well, I must say, if you give a fluffy answer, then you are going to create a lot of fluff. So, but Tim, do you buy that?
Andrew,
Tim?
What's fluffy about that? We're not going to raise.
No, I'm not talking. No, I'm not talking about your answer. I'm talking about your leader.
Okay.
About your leaders. I'd never accuse you of a fluffy answer, Margaret Hodge. I was accusing Keir Starmer of a fluffy answer. Tim, do you buy it? Working people.
Well, look, I love Margaret, and we spar together often, and I hope honestly with each other. And I often criticise my own side, Andrew. I think you'll testify to that. But look, we know as ducks quack, dogs bark, Labour governments raise taxes. It's what they always do. What Labour could have done was they could have levelled with the British people and said, this is the kind of money we need to raise over the next 2 or 3 years to make the kind of difference we want to make to the National Health Service, to the Education Service, to whatever. This is the sort of place where we will impose it, and we want your mandate for it. They haven't done that. They've chosen to hide behind what politicians always hide behind, which is, they make a few headline commitments not to increase taxes in certain areas. But we know then, as the last Labour government did, they raised the tax stealthily. Labour on course for a massive majority. The election outcome isn't in doubt. Where I think Keir Starmer has made a mistake is he hasn't earned and built the mandate that he will need in government to do the kind of thing that Labour governments always want to do, which is invest in public services. And I think Margaret, secretly, maybe she won't admit it on this programme, but I think she knows that Labour will raise taxes because that's what they want to do and they think they need to do. And the lack of honesty, I think, is obvious to everyone.
Come on, Margaret, just admit it.
Okay, no, but this is actually I've been arguing this forever, Andrew. When we come into government, there are two or three things we've got to do. First of all, we've got to ensure value for money. We've got to go through every line of the budget and take out the waste. And I think we will find billions of that. Just think about what is spent on
not our old friend waste and inefficiency. If I had a pound for every time politicians talked about waste and inefficiency, I wouldn't need to be doing this radio show. I'd be sitting on the beach in the Caribbean listening to it.
We will find billions that we can redirect. The second thing is we have to get the money in that people owe. There's there's a £36 billion gap between what we get in and what we should get in. And over the last few years, HMRC, the tax authorities, have not been pursuing those who fail to pay.
Right, but let's take that 36 billion at HMRC said in an ideal world, if we get everybody paid everything they should, we get 36 billion more. Would you now tell our listeners what is by far the biggest chunk of that 36 billion that's not paid?
I think it's mainly VAT, if I remember rightly.
Well,
Am I right?
well, it's partly that, but what it is, it ain't billionaires sitting on the beach that I wish I was on. It's small businesses. Small
Yeah.
businesses account for 20 billion. So you need to go to war with, so you're not going for the oligarchs with that,
No, no.
Margaret Hodge. You're going for small businesses. Good luck with that.
No, we are going for the oligarchs because I can tell you.
Well, okay, well, what part do they not pay? Because HMRC tells you that too. They account for 1 billion out of the 36 billion. One.
I haven't got the figures in front of me, Andrew.
I have. These are HMRC figures.
But all I can tell you, it is more than that out of the richest people, and the amount of money you invest in pursuing the richest gets you a better return than elsewhere. We have
All
to
right. Let me give. Can I give Tim?
allow
No, I
me
want to get. No, it's. I need to give Tim Montgomerie a bad time now. I mean,
Oh, no.
You've
Okay.
had your time.
I'm learning as you're talking to Margaret. Never come to an Andrew Neil interview without preparation. So I'm now
well,
quaking.
it's not too bad. You should be able to handle this. It's not. It's a medium toss down the leg side rather than a bouncer.
Chris Tavares in position.
Inflation has tumbled to 2%.
Yep.
Forecast to stay low through the summer. There could be 1, 2, 3 interest rate cuts in the summer and the autumn. Wages are now way ahead of prices, rising fast. Now, could you explain to me and our listeners again why Rishi Sunak went for July rather than November?
Well, do you want the conspiratorial reason or the human reason? I think the
I'll take two quickly.
human reason, I think he was exhausted. Often the human reason works most as an explanation in politics. I think he tried everything, nothing seemed to be working. And I think he faced a summer of probably people like me criticizing him and saying he wasn't doing a good job and he couldn't face it. And then I think the sort of empirical reason, the sort of conspiratorial reason, is I think they wanted control of candidate selection. And I think one of the biggest legacies, the final legacies of Rishi Sunak will be the fact that they were able to impose an awful lot of their own people on the party in the short period they had between announcing the election and the election starting. And that will be one of the future determinants of the Conservative Party, is who the remnant of MPs will be. Will
it not go? Well, let's take you on the remnants, then I'll go back to Margaret. I mean, the Ipso MRP poll puts the Tories down at 115 seats. If you are reduced to a rump, something like that, and a lot of these will be One Nation Tories because they have the safest seats, as a Time study has showed, can the One Nation Tories rebuild from a 115 rump? Or don't you have to let the populace right in and play their part too?
Well, one of the huge tensions, Andrew, as you well know, is that you're going to have this One Nation, sort of 2/3 One Nation, 1/3 right wing, to simplify, in the parliamentary party. And then the party in the country, which has the ultimate say on who becomes the next Tory leader, unless, and I underline this, the 1922 committee changed the rules, which I think is going to be the first post-election battle for the Conservatives. Who does choose and how do you choose the next leader? The party in the country is much more right-wing. And that really does set up the first clash for the reorganisation of the Conservative Party, who prevails. And then how long do you have the leadership election? I'd like to see us adopt the Canadian model, whereby they actually take a year before they choose a leader. They have an interim leader, they know they've got time on their side, and have a proper debate. Those are the debates that will begin on July the 5th.